Welcome back to Tides, where every story rises from the deep. This is a tale of unexpected love, mistaken identities, and a bond born out of chaos. He had everything: wealth, control, a life engineered to perfection, until a single signature changed everything. Now he's bound to a stranger, and what started as a legal disaster becomes the one thing he never saw coming: a love that just might save him. Subscribe now and get swept into Signed by Mistake. I didn't believe in chaos. My life ran on order. Meetings at 9, contracts at noon. Dinner deals over rare scotch by 8. No surprises. No mess. So, when my lawyer shoved a stack of marriage documents at me during a morning briefing, I barely glanced at them. "She signed everything yesterday. You just need to finalize your side," he said, sliding the papers across the glass desk. It was a formality, an arranged marriage, of sorts, merging two influential families to secure a land acquisition deal. I'd met her once. Briefly. Blonde. Quiet. I didn't care for much else. I signed. But 24 hours later, as I stood at the courthouse for the official civil registration, the woman who walked through the door wasn't the one I remembered. "Who the hell are you?" I asked before I could stop myself. She blinked at me, confused. "I'm Eliza Moore. We're getting married today." I turned to my lawyer. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. This isn't the right Eliza." Somehow, someway, the documents had been signed by the wrong woman. A clerical error. A legal misfire. And the marriage was now binding. We'd married the wrong strangers. I should have filed for annulment that same afternoon. Instead, I took her to dinner. Not a romantic gesture. A damage control move. Eliza sat across from me in the dim restaurant, stirring her water with a straw. She looked nothing like the polished, pre-approved socialite my team had vetted. Her hair was a little wild. Her nails were chipped. Her laugh, when the waiter spilled the bread basket, was real. "I'm a librarian," she said. "In case you're wondering." I wasn't. But now I was. "And you signed marriage papers, why?" I asked, my voice sharper than intended. She shrugged, like it wasn't the strangest mistake of her life. "My roommate's a paralegal. A stack of forms showed up with my name on them. I thought they were documents for my student loan consolidation. I was in a rush. I signed. My mouth went dry." "You didn't read them?" "No offense. But who the hell expects marriage papers to show up at their apartment by mistake?" Touché. We were both victims of a legal glitch, but now the tabloids had caught wind. The mystery marriage of billionaire Grant Harlan was trending. Investors were asking questions. My mother was demanding answers. And the worst part? The moment she smiled across that table, something about this disaster started to feel dangerous. She was supposed to be a mistake. But part of me, something buried, wondered, what if she wasn't? My legal team worked overtime that week. They drafted statements, negotiated silence, and assured me that within days, Eliza and I would be legally unbound. But Eliza? She moved in. Temporarily, of course. Optics, they said. We needed to appear stable, a married couple navigating privacy issues. Until the press forgot. Until the shareholders did too. "You okay with pretending to be my wife for 2 weeks?" I asked her flatly. She blinked. "You okay living with someone who alphabetizes her cereal boxes?" We had our answer. Her suitcase took up one corner of the guest room. Her presence, the entire floor. She sang in the mornings. Left dog-eared books around. Wore mismatched socks. She didn't fit this life I'd built. Not even close. And somehow, I couldn't stop watching her. Learning her. One night, I found her on the balcony, curled in my hoodie, looking at the skyline. "Why haven't you dated anyone?" she asked. "Because I don't trust easily," I said. She looked at me. "And why did you choose to marry someone you'd never met?" "That wasn't the plan." "Exactly." Silence grew between us, soft and strange. Then she smiled, a little sad. "You know, maybe it wasn't a mistake," she said. "Maybe it was just out of order." I didn't sleep that night. Because for the first time in years, I didn't know if I wanted the plan anymore. I never imagined I'd come home one day to find someone cooking in my kitchen, least of all the woman I accidentally married. Eliza stood barefoot, humming, flipping something in a pan. My private chef had been dismissed. Voluntarily. By her. "Morning," she said cheerily. "I made French toast. Thought I'd earn my keep." I stared. "You used my 1985 Macallan for syrup." She shrugged. "You didn't label it not for breakfast." I should have been furious. But all I could do was sit down, fork in hand, and taste it. It was incredible. And so was she, in a completely infuriating way. Later that day, my assistant dropped off an envelope, Eliza's annulment paperwork. All she had to do was sign. I handed it to her over dinner. She looked at it, then at me. Do you want this? It's your call, I said. You're the one who got dragged into my mess. Eliza stared at the papers. What if we just wait? Wait for what? I don't know. Let it play out. Let's give the story a different ending. I laughed. You're serious. She stood. Think about it, Nathan. You spend your whole life planning every step. But you didn't plan me. And maybe that's the point. She left the room before I could answer. The next morning, the envelope sat untouched. And for the first time, I didn't rush to fix it. I told myself I'd have her sign the papers by the end of the week. But the week turned into 10 days. 10 days of Eliza turning my penthouse into something that felt like a home. She danced barefoot in my kitchen. She left post-it notes on my mirror with sarcastic affirmations. She brought home vinyl records and played them too loud. She asked questions no one else ever did, like whether I was happy, not just successful. I was a millionaire. I had everything. But I'd never been asked that before. One evening, we sat on the balcony, city lights twinkling like they were winking at us. She sipped wine. What would you be if you weren't rich? Broke, I said. She laughed. No, really. I paused. Maybe a writer. You write. Used to. Poetry. When I was younger. Why'd you stop? I looked away. Didn't seem useful. She didn't say anything for a while. Then, softly, maybe that's what makes it beautiful. It doesn't have to be useful. That night, I found one of her post-its on my laptop. Write something useless today. I stared at it for a long time. The annulment papers still sat on my desk, untouched. Maybe we were both waiting for one of us to say what we were both starting to feel. Maybe we were already saying it in the silence. The annulment papers were still where I left them, on the edge of my desk, under a crystal paperweight shaped like a globe. I stared at them every morning. Eliza never asked about them, and I never brought them up. But something shifted the day she found the invitation. I came home late. Another investor meeting, another glass of scotch. Another moment I found myself missing her more than I should. She stood in the kitchen holding the embossed card. The gold lettering glimmered under the light. You're going to Paris, she said, trying to keep her voice casual. It's a business gala, I replied. Do I go? She asked, smiling thinly. As your fake wife? Eliza. I'm kidding, she said quickly. Sort of. I stepped closer. You could come, if you wanted. She hesitated. What would we be pretending then? We were quiet. Do you want me to go? She asked. I did. Not because it made sense. Not because it would help with appearances or contracts. I just wanted her there. But instead of answering, I walked past her and poured a drink I didn't even want. That night, I couldn't sleep. I stared at the ceiling, her soft breathing just a few feet away. My chest ached, not from guilt, not from stress, but from wanting her and not knowing if I deserved to. At 2 a.m., I walked into my office and looked at the annulment papers again. Then I lit a match. I watched the edges curl into blackened ash. My heart pounded like I'd just made a deal I couldn't undo. Because maybe I had, and maybe I didn't want to. Eliza stepped out of the car in a navy blue dress that made the entire city pause. I watched her like I'd never seen her before. Maybe I hadn't, not really. The gala was held in an old cathedral-turned museum. All candlelight and whispers. We were supposed to mingle, smile for cameras, charm investors. But my eyes never left her. She danced with 2 clients that night, laughing, twirling, and looking over her shoulder to find me every time. And when I finally asked for a dance, she leaned in like we'd always belonged there. I thought you hated events like this, I murmured. I do, she replied. But I like the way you look at me in them. Afterward, we walked along the Seine. It had started to drizzle. The rain soft as silk. Eliza pulled off her heels and walked barefoot across the cobblestones. You know, she said, I was engaged once. I froze. He was perfect on paper. Loved my family, steady job, nice house. But he never looked at me like you do when you think I'm not watching. My voice was hoarse. How do I look at you? Like I'm the risk you're too afraid to take. I didn't answer. I couldn't. So she walked ahead of me, into the rain. And for the first time since my father died, since the company took over my life, I felt like I was losing something that truly mattered. Not a contract, not a title. Her. I caught up to her under a street lamp. Eliza, I said. I burned the annulment papers. She turned, eyes wide. You what? I couldn't do it. I don't know what this is, but I know I don't want it to end. She stepped closer, rain glistening on her skin. What if I fall for you, and you change your mind? Then I'll fight for you until you believe I won't. And under the Paris rain, I kissed her for the first time. Not out of obligation, not for the cameras, but because I was already hers. When we got back to the hotel, we didn't speak much. Eliza curled up on the window seat, watching the city lights blink like stars scattered across black velvet. I poured us each a glass of wine, and for a while, we just sat in silence, an easy, aching kind. You know, she said finally, her voice barely above a whisper, I lied to you about why I was at that wedding. I turned to her, surprised. What do you mean? I wasn't just covering for a friend. I was supposed to be the bride's plus one. But the guy, he bailed on me last minute. I only wore that dress because I didn't want to feel like an outsider. So we were both running from something, I said. She smiled faintly. Yeah, and we crashed into each other. I moved to sit beside her. You don't know me perfect, just honest. Her eyes shone as they met mine. Then here's honesty, she whispered. I'm scared of how quickly this stopped feeling like a mistake. I took her hand. Eliza, everything in my life has been planned. Every move, every deal, every dinner party. But you're the first thing I never saw coming. She leaned her head on my shoulder. We're married, she murmured. By accident. I laughed softly. Maybe fate's more reckless than we think. There was a pause. Then she said, do you ever wonder what it would have been like if we met the normal way? All the time, I replied. But I think I would have missed you. Why? Because I wasn't looking. We stayed like that until dawn, tangled in quiet truths and borrowed time. It was the most peace I'd felt in years. And deep down, I knew this wasn't just a fling or a fluke. It was a beginning, the kind that rewrites everything. I thought we were finally safe, like the worst was behind us. But life has a cruel way of testing what you're willing to fight for. It started with a knock on the door. I opened it to find Charlotte, my assistant, standing there, pale and nervous, holding a stack of papers. I'm sorry, Nathan, she said, but you need to see this. Inside the envelope was a prenuptial agreement, one I had supposedly signed before marrying Eliza. But I hadn't. My chest tightened. Where did you get this? Charlotte hesitated. Your father's lawyer sent it. He said it was part of your estate file. But, Nathan, this isn't your signature. The document was a fake. Someone had tried to make it look like I'd protected my assets in case. Eliza turned out to be a gold digger. It was a message, not from Eliza, but from the people who still believed she was. I stormed out and found my father waiting for me at his country club. You always acted like love was above you, he said, sipping scotch. But men like us don't marry strangers. We make alliances. She's not a stranger anymore. He raised a brow. But she's not one of us. I felt something inside me break. You don't get to decide who's worthy of me. He chuckled. Son, everyone has a price. You just haven't found hers yet. I walked out without another word. When I got home, Eliza was gone. The hotel manager said she'd checked out. No note. No message. Just gone. I searched for her everywhere, called, texted, begged. Days passed. Then a week. Then two. Until one night, I found an envelope at my door. Inside, her wedding ring. And a single sentence written in her handwriting. I won't be the reason you lose everything. I kept the ring. Not because I was holding on to hope, at least. That's what I told myself. But because letting it go felt like confirming that what we had wasn't real. I threw myself into work, into silence, into pretending. But everywhere I went, she was there, in the places she used to sit. The scent of her perfume in my car. The unfinished coffee mug in my cabinet I could never bring myself to wash. It wasn't the whirlwind romance people mocked. It wasn't some drunken Vegas mistake. It was real. It just happened too fast for the world to believe in it. And too fast for her to believe she was worthy of it. Months passed. Until one evening, Charlotte came into my office, hesitant. There's someone here to see you, she said. She wouldn't give her name. But I think you'll want to. I walked into the lobby, and there she was. Eliza, hair longer, a little thinner, but those eyes still stopped my breath. I heard about your father, she said quietly. He'd passed 2 weeks earlier. A stroke. He was wrong, I said. She looked down. So was I. I took a step closer. Why did you leave? I didn't know how to stay, she whispered. I thought love came with conditions. I didn't know it could just exist, without proving anything. I reached into my pocket and took out the ring I'd kept every day since. Held it out to her. "You don't have to prove anything to me," I said. "You just have to stay." She cried. I cried. And for the first time in a long time, I knew I hadn't married a mistake. I'd just married ahead of the story. Sometimes, love doesn't follow the rules. Sometimes, it finds us in the most unexpected ways. Through mistakes, misunderstandings, and moments that feel too big to be real. But when two hearts are meant to find each other, even the wildest beginning can lead to the deepest love. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Tides, where every tale is a journey, and every journey changes everything.